All right, I think this thing's working. Not really sure. This is my first one, so here we go. I'm hoping that everybody can hear me. And let's see. I see a yes down there at the bottom. If you could just hit yes or type yes or a thumbs up or something, just so I could get a quick comms check. I just want to make sure. All right, awesome. This is my first one, so hey, look, I'm going to screw this thing up, and I apologize in advance. And I'm not the fastest reader, so this is really going to be exciting. So, I'm just going to kind of start at the top of these things here real quick. But first, I wanted to thank everybody for jumping on. I really appreciate you, and I appreciate all the support. I am assuming most of you are subscribers to the channel or members or both, right? And I appreciate all the support. We have grown tremendously over the last year and change, and I'm very, very happy about that. I'm wearing glasses, by the way, because, well, it's a little bit blurry, and I want to be able to, I don't know, not mess up my reading. So anyway, what's the average waiting time to get to a CMP? It really is going to be based on your geographic location. What happens is, depending on the regional office that you're assigned to, and guess what? It's not always the regional office that's the closest to you. The VA will transfer stuff back and forth, and it just kind of depends on the workloads and all that stuff. I know that's not the answer that you like there, Angela, at the very top. It's a waning game. I would say the better question, instead of how long does it take to get to a CMP exam, is how long is too long? So when should you be really concerned? And I would say, if you're probably over the 6 month, probably getting to 7 months, 8 months, and you have not been scheduled a CMP exam, I would probably reach out either directly to the VA, or you could also work with your accredited rep, and they would be able to reach into the VA system, into their VBMS, remote access. Typically, your accredited reps would be able to do that and check in on it and make sure that something didn't get hung up somewhere. So again, I've seen CMP exams happen within, a couple months of submitting a claim, but I've also seen them take, 6, 7 months. Right now, you're looking at about a year and a half, or not a year and a half, excuse me. Right now, you're looking at about a half a year for a claim on average to be completed. So some are happening a little sooner and some are taking longer. Moving on. So talking about cancers here from Bruce. So cancers are one of those weird things with the VA, because if you have active cancer and it's service connected, they are going to give you 100%. But they're not going to give you permanent because, well, the cancer could go into remission and then it will be less severe. Now, that doesn't mean that the rating will go away. You want to make sure that you're getting everything documented as far as any sort of residual aspects, like you mentioned here, Bruce, the residual damages. You want to make sure that you get all of the residual damages documented by your doctor, whether it's a VA doctor or civilian side. Get that stuff documented, so that way, in the event that the cancers go into remission, you will then be able to supply all that information to the VA to continue to have a rating. Let's see, moving on. I see 12 Bravo, Georgia. Hey, what's going on, brother? Let's see. Next one. Is it okay to submit new claims if you are 100% permanent in total? So you're going to hear a lot of folks say, don't do it. And that's a blanket statement. And I'm not super fond of blanket statements because everybody's situation is different. Look, if you're permanent in total, you're about as protected as you can get. Now, does it mean that the VA can never reduce you? No. I mean, there's always that possibility, although it's minute when you're permanent in total. The question becomes, what would you be filing for, and what sort of benefits would come from that? If you're talking about filing conditions that are going to take you to some sort of special monthly compensation, well, then heck yeah, why not? You're going to end up getting more monetary benefit. Now, special monthly compensation could be added on as an add-on to your 100% payment, let's say like aid and attendance or something like that. Or if you're sliding all the way over into the special monthly compensation world completely, well, then what's going to happen is you're just going to have a much higher payment and just be on that schedule. Let's dial that back a little bit more and say, okay, well, you're 100% permanent in total, but none of your conditions currently warrant a clothing allowance. Well, let's say that the new condition does. Well, that's $1,000 a year that you could get. Another reason why somebody may want to file a condition if they're already 100% permanent in total would be the forward-thinking aspect of, well, when I pass away, my spouse is going to end up having to file for DIC, dependency indemnity compensation. Now, there's a bunch of, everything's nuanced, right? And I apologize for how the VA works because it is so nuanced. If you're 100% permanent in total and you've been 100% for 10 years, your spouse is going to be golden with regard to DIC. You pass away from anything, it doesn't matter. But if you're short of 10 years, let's say that you're 2 years permanent in total, but you have a life-threatening new condition that could be service-connected, you would want to get that documented potentially and get service connected for it. Then what happens is if you end up passing away due to that condition or as a result of that condition as a contributing cause on the death certificate. And by the way, very important to understand that when it comes to dependency indemnity compensation, the death certificate has 2 spots on it, one for cause of death, one for contributing cause of death. The VA looks at those the same. So if you have less than 10 years at 100% and you pass away from a condition that's service connected or contributing cause of death, I use hypertension a lot as the example here. You die of a heart attack, you're not rated for anything for your heart, but you have high blood pressure. Get high blood pressure put on that death certificate as a contributing cause, so that way the spouse can get dependency indemnity compensation. So having that additional claim in, even if you're 100% permanent in total, will help your spouse in the worst time of their life, right? Having to deal with all of that stuff. Does it mean that it has to happen that way? No. Your spouse, or if you are a spouse, the service member doesn't have to have that condition service connected in order for you to get dependency indemnity compensation. It's just now you have another layer you have to go through, another hurdle you have to jump, because you need to essentially file a claim showing that that condition was a service-connected condition and get that approved first. So this would just kind of front load it a little bit and make it a little bit easier. All right, moving on here. It seems like I'm going very slow. I'm going to have to try to speed up. All right. So, wow, there's a lot. Okay. Again, this is my first time, so I don't know how fast I got to try to get through this stuff. Let's see. So, hello, Jason. If you get a claim denied and you file a supplemental, you have a year to file it, keep your original intent to file date correct. Yes. So, and again, nuanced, man. And this is why I could spend all day, every day talking this stuff, because everybody's situation is different. So for the most part, yes. And the reason why I say that is I'll give 2 fast examples here just because it's important. So you file a claim, you're denied on it. You file a supplemental with additional evidence. You're preserving that original effective date from whenever you originally filed, or whenever you originally filed your intent to file, even before the claim, right? Now, the flip to that would be, let's say you were denied because, I don't know, you were never diagnosed, right? And so now you're like, oh, well, I got to go get diagnosed. So you get diagnosed. The VA may go off that diagnosis date because you never had the condition before. Prove to me you had it before that date. Well, I never had it before officially until I got diagnosed. That's why it's so important to get diagnosed for conditions. So another reason why they might not go all the way back to an effective date that you were preserving would be maybe some sort of a change in the rules. Maybe you put in an intent to file and you're waiting for looser criteria to happen for some sort of a condition. The VA makes those changes and now you file your claim. Well, they're not going to go back before the rule change. Let's say that the condition was at a 30% on the rating schedule, and they upped it to a 50%, we'll just say, and you file that claim, that 50% rating didn't exist prior. So they won't go all the way back. They'll go to whenever that rating was actually available. All right, so moving on, got all the yeses there for the sound. So thank you so much. I appreciate that. Let's see. Okay, the 3M earplug, Brandy Lewis. Can you speak up? Okay, so my hubby's, I get it. So because of his tinnitus and hearing loss, I need to yell a little bit. So I'm hoping for those of you that are in on the 3M lawsuit, looks like the threshold has been met, by the way, for all of the claimants. They needed to hit a 98% threshold in order to move forward. The one little piece of information that I did get out of there recently was 3M. There's two pieces that have kind of happened over the course of the last, I don't know, couple months. One is 3M pulled back the $1 billion of stock as part of the settlement and replaced it with cash and said, fine, we'll just pay you the $6 billion in cash, which is sweet. So that's good. The second part to it is 3M is working with their insurance company, right? So probably like an errors and omissions type of an insurance to help with some of the costs. And I believe there's some sort of another lawsuit happening between 3M and their insurance provider. So I don't know how much that's going to delay things, but that is just some I don't know, some news on that. All right. Moving on, want to see Stan. I can't, unless I brought him in here, which me and Stan kind of have a little thing sometimes. He thinks I'm after his hens and he jumps on me sometimes, right? It's usually if I haven't seen him for a day. So it's like I'm a new threat or something all of a sudden. So I'm not really that fond of trying to grab him, but I will do, and I've done one in the past. I did a video. I don't remember what I called it, Meet the Rooster, and did a little video on him. But I'll take the camera outside and hang out with Stan and the spicy chicks, ginger, paprika, and cayenne. There you go. All right. So moving on. Good Friday. Yes, it is. Thank you so much, Jimmy. East Texas, 5 months and some change. I'm guessing how long the process was taking. All right. 4 to 5 weeks in Michigan. Okay. So we're getting some, hey, wow. Michigan would be a good place then. And I'm assuming that Al's talking about the time to a C&P exam. That's pretty sweet. Texas is kind of what I see. 5 months-ish worth. Now, remember, I mean, geographically, we're talking about large populations of veterans. So you're going to have vets that have, or states that have large populations, right? California, Texas, Florida, and New York, I think, are the top 4 populated states. Moving on, let's see, Glenn, they messed up my claim so bad. That sucks. So, yeah. I kind of remember, I don't know if it was you, Glenn, off the top of my head, who put something in regarding a claim that had to be canceled. That's too bad. Hopefully you got another intent to file in. Moving on, can you go over the VCAA regulations change of August 4th, 2000 for aggravated pre-existing conditions? Okay, so I don't have that up in front of me. I'll probably have to just do a video on that on the side. So I'll make a little notation of that. But because I don't want to throw out wrong information is the problem. So what I'll do is I'll have to do a video on that, Leon. So I apologize for not hitting that in this moment. Let's see, moving on here. Also be sure to keep an eye on renewal. Yeah, exactly. The intent. So intent to files, right? Just gentle reminder. Sometimes we put them in thinking that we may need to do something and then we forget about them. Make sure you're putting notation, calendar reminders in your phone is what I always recommend, and put it, like a 6-month reminder, 9-month, and like maybe an 11-month reminder to buy yourself some time. When it comes to intent to file, already diagnosed, let's say you're working on the Nexus information, question. You put your intent to file in. You're planning on filing or I need to get my claim filed because of my intent to file expiration date. File for everything that you're going to file for, even if the VA is going to deny you, because then once they deny you, then you can file your supplemental claim with your additional evidence. So you can work to preserve that effective date the best you can. You don't want to let it go. So if you had 5 conditions, but you only had documentation for 2, you're missing the nexus piece for the other 3, and you've ordered it through National Archives or wherever, and you're waiting on it, and you dragged your feet for a while, whatever, still file for all 5 conditions. Because now the VA knows that you're filing for them. They'll deny you for lack of the nexus. Then you can turn around and supply them once you actually get it with that supplemental. All right, so moving on, I submitted results, and VA asked me with their machine. Well, I don't know. I'm assuming it's apnea for sleep apnea. I don't know. So in order to file for sleep apnea, they want you to have a sleep study done to prove that you've already, that you have sleep apnea. And I don't know why maybe somebody can chime in. I don't have sleep apnea myself. I don't know why they would. In the past, I've always filed claims with just the results from sleep studies to show, and then the diagnosis of sleep apnea, along with, in most cases, the use of the CPAP, right? So we'll call it a prescription of a CPAP. So happy Easter, Glenn. Let's see, big picture. How is the PACT Act going after implementation? Big picture, I think that the one good, there's a few good things, right? So obviously everybody's aware of the PACT Act, the idea of additional presumptive conditions being added to the VA's list of conditions and all that good stuff. That's all great. A couple of kind of side note things with the PACT Act, I think. One is overall awareness, right? So because there's been so much media around it, I think that it's actually a good, I guess I don't know what to call it. It's a good awareness campaign for VA benefits in general, because look, and I've said it before, you're only talking about less than 30%, maybe 28, 29% of veterans are actually utilizing the VA for VA disability compensation. And you and I know that the percentage could be much higher, right? It's just that people aren't filing for whatever reason. So I think that it's a good awareness campaign for one. The other piece is that inside the PACT Act, there was some rule changes for the VA to basically figure out and implement additional presumptive conditions and locations and all that stuff, all kind of internally, instead of working with outside agencies or organizations to make those things happen. So it gave more power to the VA. That's why we see this new rule change. For those that missed it, I did do a video on it. I forgot what I called it. But there is a new, I think I did a couple videos on it, a new rule change proposed by the VA to expand Agent Orange and other herbicide locations, right? So one, we already have a list of presumptives, but I know just from my past experience in the different capacities that I've held in the veteran sphere, right, that were many people saying, look, I was around Agent Orange all the time, but how come my base wasn't on this list? So they're looking to expand it to a lot of locations within the US, Canada, and India, and to grant service connection through presumptive conditions for Agent Orange and other herbicides for places where it was stored, used, and tested. So that's really huge, and the VA is able to do that quicker because of the PACT Act. All right, so let's see. GERD, yes. David C. Initial stages of GERD treatment this week. The intent to file doesn't ask what you're filing for GERD. Yeah, so intent to file only asks you two things, really. Are you filing a compensation claim, or are you filing a pension claim? So if it's disability compensation, it's compensation. If it's VA pension, which I like to explain is a safety net program from the VA for veterans and spouses, surviving spouses. It's a safety net program for low and no income veterans, so and spouses. So those are your only two choices with the intent to file. So you would just say that. You would say compensation, and the VA doesn't care what you file for. The intent to file is good for 1 year, and you can you want to apply under the two. Oh yeah, absolutely. So with the digestive changes to the rating schedule that will be going into effect in May, if you file a claim now, most likely the VA is not going to decide the claim before May, just because it's 2 months, right? Or a month and a half. So most likely they're going to decide it after the fact. But because your intent to file or your filing date, either one, because it's your effective date, if your effective date is now and they decide it after the rule change in May, they will look at your condition on both rating schedules, and whichever one you rate higher on is the one that they're going to assign to you. So it's you're in a very, very good situation right now. Don't, and for others, don't miss that that window. So let's see, Gregory. Thank you so much. Love the show. And, you know, I know that there's been some people out there asking about doing the co-hosted one too, right? So that channel that I reached out to Clay, we created that second channel called Veterans Daily with Jay and Clay. Jason, right? But Jason doesn't really rhyme, right? So Jay and Clay, Veterans Daily. We're going to be doing a live as well together. Just because it's kind of fun. It's nice to have people going back and forth. I think that was one of the pieces that was missing, quite frankly, in this space. So I wanted to make sure we did that. So thanks a lot. Appreciate it. Scott Moon, 100% P&T truck driver out of Cali, but from the Southeast. Wow. It's usually the other way around. People are leaving California to come out to the Southeast right now. But you went the other way. So awesome. Good to have you, Scott. Moving on, foreclosure debacle. Oh, yes. Yeah, I did a few videos on that. Needs some attention. Regional office called me today. Missed the call, but fear they are just seeing if I took care of their, yeah, no kidding. So the foreclosure debacle is essentially the VA pulling the rug out of a lot of out from under a lot of folks who took advantage of a COVID forbearance program that was allotted to many people with mortgages, right? So you owned your home, you ran into some problems, you qualified for a forbearance. Basically, you could skip some payments and they would add it to the end of the loan, and then you'd be able to just carry on. Well, the VA removed a provision without letting anybody really even know that, oh yeah, we're going to end that. Well, hey, guess what? I'm already in the forbearance process. Well, sorry, too late for you. That left the lenders coming back to you as the veteran borrower saying, guess what? We can't add it to the end of your loan anymore because the VA took away that opportunity for you. So now in order to get yourself straight, you got to pay us whatever it is, right? 6 months worth of payments, 12 months worth of payments, you name it. And obviously, if you were in a hard spot, how are you gonna come up with all the money that you should have been paying if you couldn't afford it to begin with because of I lost my job or my company went under or moved or what have you? Yeah, definitely big issues. The end result is VA supposedly had reached out to the different lenders asking them to basically not foreclose on VA loans and allow them some time to get it straightened out. They're supposed to be getting it straightened out with some sort of a program that's not as good as where you could have been, but better than where you are. So that's still a debacle. My suggestion is reach out to your congressional members. The chair of the Veterans Committee on the Senate side reached out as well to the VA secretary on this specific issue. So I think that the more elected you have barking at the VA, especially in election years, probably the better, and we can get something to happen here. There's kind of a side note that's happening. There's been some push from people on the Senate or the Veterans Committee in the Senate regarding what about the folks that elected to essentially do a modification on their loan and take a higher interest rate and just kind of pay a higher price and move on. How are they going to be made whole? And so there is some talk about trying to do that as well. Anyway, let's move on from there. If already service, this is Patricia Navarro. If I've already been service connected mental health, can I now submit a claim for PTSD, MST? I have a current diagnosis from my primary psychologist. So yes, you can. However, it's all going to be under the same rating schedule, and I'm sure you're probably kind of aware of how this works. The mental health rating schedule is different than kind of all the rest. It's basically, it's an umbrella for mental health, and somebody can have depression, anxiety, PTSD, insomnia, and they just push it all together and go, okay, we're going to create one rating with all these signs and symptoms and so forth. So there's one rating schedule, one rating that can be obtained for mental health, with the exception of, and I'll throw this out there for folks, the only other one that falls under mental health where you can actually have a second rating is eating disorders like bulimia or anorexia. So you can have, a traditional mental health along with an eating disorder. So you can have two, but in this situation, it's going to be one. Now, if your, for example, if your major depression rating is a 10% or a 30%, and now the PTSD and MST drive symptoms upward to where you could feasibly get a 70% or even 100%, well, then yeah, go for it. Situations will dictate. One other note on mental health is there is that proposed change to the mental health rating schedule, which we don't have a date yet. There is a loose date. That loose date is, I believe, June of this year, but who knows when it's going to go through. It's like a fake date that's just kind of put in as a place marker. So we'll see when that goes into effect. I believe that new rating schedule is more liberal in a sense, and easier to hit the 100% rating because it is removing the requirement of total occupational and social impairment. So once they remove that, and then they're revamping the whole thing, but it makes it much easier to hit those higher levels. Moving on, trying to go quick here for you guys. Sorry, I'm not the fastest. All right. I froze up. I don't know if I'm still froze up. I see that one. Trying not to skip anybody. Bear with me. I can blame Stan, right? All right. Man, there's a lot of comments. You guys are just nonstop. All right. So moving on, let's see. Okay, have cancer now, over 55. Would 100% be looked in, or I have to wait for a possible remission? Or locked in, 100% locked in. No, it's not going to be locked in typically, even though you're over 55. Cancer is kind of a funny situation. I would definitely look at, keep looking at other options that you have as far as secondaries and so forth. If you are cancer, if it's in remission, make sure you work on those residual effects. Let's see here. All right, from Todd, do rating reps commonly contact doctors who wrote Nexus letters and or DBQs, or call others who wrote? No, they don't really reach out, and they just work with what they got. So they'll look and review the information. The only time that they'll reach out is if you sign over the authority for the VA to reach out to your current provider or past providers to obtain any sort of medical records regarding whatever conditions. That's when they'll reach out. And even then it's kind of I don't advise it. One, it'll be faster if you just do it yourself. Two, you get to control what you give the VA instead of the VA just getting kind of everything. Remember that evidence can be used, to support your claim, or it can be used against your claim. So remember that. All right. So moving on here, dependents get DIC. Yes. So DIC, dependency indemnity compensation, can be surviving spouses, dependents, or parents, different qualifiers for each. Primarily, it's going to be the surviving spouse. Learn the symptoms. Let's see. It's a response. Sorry if I skip over anybody. I'm doing the best I can. All right. Currently hoping, praying, cure vertigo and tinnitus. Sucks. Vertigo and tinnitus, by the way. I got this one here. Hulk 09, Semper Fi, brother. Currently, for a cure for the vertigo and tinnitus, you may, don't know, have Meniere's disease, which is a ratable condition. So I don't know if you're diagnosed for that or not, but check it out. Is housebound same as aid in attendance? No, different payments, different criteria. And it's on the VA's website. If you Google search or go onto the VA's website with a Google search of VA aid in attendance or housebound, you will see the two different definitions there. I'm trying to, I know I said it before, trying to go quicker to try to catch up with some of this stuff. What are the conditions that are required for DIC and surviving spouses? For DIC for surviving spouses. So what are the conditions that are required for DIC for surviving spouse? It's two different kind of avenues here. One, DIC, dependency indemnity compensation, if the veteran was rated 100% for 10 years prior to death, they could pass away of anything, walk out into the street and get hit by a car. Covered. If it's less than 10 years, being 100%, or TDIU, if it's less than 10 years that the veteran was rated 100%, then what happens is you are bound to the cause of death or the contributing cause of death being service connected. Okay. So on the death certificate, there's two spots for contributing cause and cause. So you'd want to make sure that one of the veteran's conditions that were service connected are on that death certificate. All right, moving on here. Dirt Road Dreamers. How long after the change to mental health should we go file a rating and for increase? Any good do's and don'ts for that process? As soon as it goes into effect, as soon as you know that it's in effect, file that intent to file and then read through it and make sure that you get everything documented. I'm a big fan of doing the homework up front. Filing the intent to file helps take some of the pressure off of you filing your claim, because you've already locked in your date. Read the schedule of ratings, exactly what they're looking for, and make sure that you are crossing those T's and dotting those I's to meet the appropriate rating, right? If you meet all the criteria for 100% rating, then great. But make sure that you articulate that and don't leave it to chance. Moving on. Hello from Savannah, Georgia. All right, sweet. Georgia in the house. Georgia on my mind. Now I want some peach cobbler. All right. How much of an uphill battle is it to get contaminated water exposure, PFAS, firefighting foam, service connected to multiple? It's really all dependent on the documentation, right? Almost anything's possible. If you can get your doctors to get it in line, right? So if you have a current condition that you believe is connected to PFAS, firefighting foam, those forever chemicals, contaminated water type stuff, two things I would do. One, I would talk to my doctor about it and seeing if they believe that there is at least likely not causation there, and then having them write a letter, right? Basically a Nexus letter, and then connecting those two things, right? Kind of lining it all together. And then the other thing is, and I suggest this for a lot of folks, if you have a condition and you think that it came from something you did on some base somewhere, or you were on some ship that had, asbestos that you were, eating with your crackers, right? Look up any studies. Sometimes these universities out there and stuff will do studies on specific things, and you might come across a study. That's evidence if it's in your favor, right? So again, you supply what's in your favor. Working with your doctor and looking for studies online are good ways to do that. Thank you for saying that I'm doing just fine. Again, here I am, right? With my glasses on. They're not even my fancy glasses. All right. So moving on, I see a comment there. They're different. I believe that's probably talking about the aid in attendance and housebound. Yes, the conditions fall under different categories. A lot of, this is what I love about our community. And I get it. Look, other communities do it too. But we have so much information between us all that we can help each other, right? And for those that have ever hung on to the end of any one of my videos, get it, right? If we don't help each other, something went wrong, and it's true. And that's why I like the comments aspect for folks. I don't know why I guess I do know why the VA doesn't do that on their channel, but we can help each other so much by communicating, right? And that's what the comments do. So thanks for the comments and answering everybody here too as well. I appreciate it. All right, let's see. When does hearing loss 0% minimum go to 10% minimum? So I don't know the exact date. I do know that basically what's happening is that the tinnitus is the standalone is kind of going away, but if you have some mild hearing loss associated with it, then it'll fall under the hearing and be able to be rated there at a 10%. So that's kind of what we're alluding to here. And we don't have the exact dates yet. So roosters and clocks, yeah, right. And I don't know where Stan is. I'm surprised that he hasn't jumped up yet. Mark with his Trump 2024, got to throw that out there. 12 Bravo, yeah, damn Stan. So for anybody that's watched my buddy's channel over at the CivDiv, he did the hot wing challenge. So if Stan acts up too much, I'm just saying, we might have to. Nah, Stan's a good guy. I got to keep him around. He'll. I don't know how long he's going to live, but he'll be around for a while unless some sort of big hawk or something comes and get him. So, all right, the spicy chicks. Yeah, you caught that. All right. So moving on here, does the VA rater usually agree with a favorable C&P? Yes, because look, when you think about it, your VA rater is, they're just some person who's a GS whatever, texting their buddies and friends about what they're going to do on Friday night. Okay, they're just people sitting there. They don't really, we'd like to think they care, but they don't care that much. So the whole purpose of the C&P exam is really twofold. One, give a medical opinion to the VA that your condition is service connected and where it should fall on the rating schedule. Those are the two goals at the C&P exam, right? Get it service connected and get the appropriate rating. That information goes back to the rater. Rater reads it, goes, at least likely as not. Cool. That means you're service connected. And, oh, I have all the criteria here that meet to this rating. Done. So you can screw it up, obviously, in the C&P exam, but normally you're not going to have an issue. Moving on here, Mike says, does the VA rater, that's the one I just read. Moving on to Russell Scott. Sounds good. Okay, thanks. Mo here, thanks for the information. You're welcome. Does the VA rater usually agree? Yes. All right. Been through a rate reduction back in 17. That sucks. They said I was all better. TDIU, permanent total now. Isn't that funny how that works? So that's 12 Bravo, Georgia. Thank you so much. It it does suck. And here's the thing, anything with the VA is never give up, right? Never take anything negative that comes to you from the VA as a final. Fight it and, do what you can to overcome it. Usually the regrets are, I wish I would have did that earlier, right? So moving on here, any updates on the Major Richard Starr Act? There has been another push legislatively to gather more support on it. Again, this is one of those things where we collectively have to be a squeaky wheel. I think look, here's the problem, is that the Major Richard Starr Act is going to affect a small portion of veterans. That's the reality. So I believe that it is a harder hill to climb because of that. Now, if we all look at it and go, you know what, but it's the right thing to do, and I'm going to call my congressional elected official and tell them that they need to support it, and that we're aware and that this thing needs to happen, then we could probably get some movement. But again, there has been some more movement in Congress. There's been a couple additional folks signing up on that. So there is some movement. So the one piece on that is that they are looking to potentially get it shoved into a bigger piece of legislation as just kind of like well, hey, I'll sign that if we slide this in there, like in the NDAA or whatever. So there is that. So what made me decide to get into doing YouTube videos, and what drives you to help all of us? Well, about, I don't know, maybe 12 years ago or so. So I'll give you the fastest version here. For those of you that know, I can ramble and go down strange rabbit holes. So after I got out of the Marine Corps, I filed a claim with the VA. Got denied. I threw my arms in the air and said, I don't really care, and moved on with my life. Didn't really understand what the impacts of a VA claim would be. So then life went by, and I was out for 12 years. Went through 2007, 2008. It was a financial fiasco. Lost a bunch of money. Lost houses. I had, multiple rental properties and so forth. Was doing pretty good prior to that. Anyway, so lost everything. You name it, bankruptcy, divorce, tax liens, everything you could think of was happening. So I ended up joining the Army National Guard as kind of a supplemental reset and supplemental income for everything as well. And went through that, and I ended up hurting my eye. Then I ended up going, man, I got to file a claim again. So then I filed a claim, and then I ended up getting into veterans benefit stuff, from employment stuff to at a state level for employment initiatives from the National Guard. Also worked in a nonprofit running a couple different counties for homeless and at risk of becoming homeless veterans. So I worked in that space. And then I was a veteran service officer running a team there for about 5 years. And so I guess in that time frame, my own personal experience coupled with my professional experience working with vets is the one common thing from myself and from the people I worked with, whether it was a surviving spouse who was 80 years old or a service member, was, wow, I wish I would have known. And I'll be honest with you, I never really looked anything up on YouTube. I didn't even know about like other people, right? And I don't really care, right? The Combat Craigs, the veteran, the VA Claims Insider guy, even the VA channel. I knew nothing of any of those people. I didn't know. And it wasn't until I started this channel that I actually started, because then it tells you, oh, here's other channels that people watch or whatever. So I didn't even do any research. I just started doing it. And I'll throw in one last funny piece just because, people like funny things. I talked about doing this with my staff at different capacities for probably 7 years. 7 years prior to me doing it, about how we needed to do videos and push out information because we're saying the same things. And nobody wanted to do it. And I said, I don't want to be the face of it, but we need to do it. So at the last tail end, I went out and I bought a vlogging kit and I unboxed it and I sat it in the corner of my office. And that damn thing stared at me every day for about 2.5 or 3 years, looking at that ring light thing and it just sitting there and having people ask me about it that would come to my office like, hey, what's that thing? Are you doing videos? And finally, I just did one and said, screw it. I'm just going to do it and see what happens. And here we are today, right? All of us together. Some of you have been here a very long time, and I really truly appreciate everybody's support, right? Because without that, that's how you pull the plug, right? Is the lack of support. So this is definitely an us for us endeavor is the way that I look at it. Look, I'm the talking head up here. It's all of us. So thank you. Thanks for asking. And sorry that was so long. Again, that's my one drawback is I can tend to talk too much. All right. So I was just approved for GERD. Awesome. But they rated it based on the symptoms while taking medication. Shouldn't you be rated on the symptoms without meds? So you'll hear often, and not just on my channel, you want to kind of describe your worst times, right? You want to describe your worst times, your worst situation. You don't want to lie, but you don't want to sugarcoat things either. So here's the thing: you can sugarcoat, and here you are, right? If you experience certain things not on medication, right? Well, then you should probably talk about that too, and make sure that it's all in there. It's hard to answer that without saying lie, right? So you want to make sure that you're being completely 100% truthful and honest. I'll tell you, even when I take medication, there's still certain things that I can eat that just totally jack me up. And I have to like pile the pillows behind me, type of a situation. And there's also been times where I stopped taking it because I changed my diet so drastically. I didn't really need it as much. And it was only when I started to introduce other things where I started to have problems. I will tell you that as a reminder, GERD is changing. The gastroesophageal reflux disease rating schedule is changing. You should read both rating schedules and see which one that you're more apt to be rated higher at, and maybe leverage that as well. So I'm breaking up a little bit at some point. Who knows how long ago that was now. Sorry. Let's see. JP6 jet fuel on board Kennedy incinerators, war medal for being Lebanon, but the VA does not recognize. Okay, so here's the thing. Sometimes what happens is, Walter and everybody else, we get wrapped around the axle with regard to presumptive conditions and just regular conditions, right? For regular service connection. So when we say that the VA doesn't recognize it, that you might be talking about it as a presumptive condition. You might not have any presumptives regarding that, but you start to pull up studies on JP6. You start looking up other issues that you've been surrounded by, and you'll see maybe some studies on it. Your doctor can utilize those studies in reference to their Nexus Letter and have it in there as justification and rationale, and you can get a strong Nexus Letter. So there are options for you to just go the direct service connection route. It's a little more footwork, right? Because you have to build that bridge back with regard to the Nexus. So moving on here, again, I see a few that say that I was breaking up, and I'm sure that was a while ago now. So I apologize. Let's see. I really want to know the answer to that too. That was probably the JP6 thing. Here's a shocker for you, Gulf War syndrome. Yeah, Gulf War syndrome. And, that I think that what happened was with Gulf War syndrome, they started off just calling it Gulf War syndrome. And now with the PACT Act, they're really diving into actual conditions as a result of as well. There's a lot of different situations. It looks like I was breaking up really bad. We can't hear you. hopefully that changes at some point. Yeah, right. The rooster probably bit through some line somewhere. Let's see. Hopefully it's fixed. I'm afraid to scroll down because it's hard to get back to where I was. Let's see. Nice. FUBU, for us, by us. That's right. All right, I can hear you. Okay, thank you. So I scrolled down. Now I got to scroll back up again. Sorry about that. This is my problem, right? I wish that there was a different way, but here we go. Not froze. Click out. Click out of the video and back on. Nikki H. Thank you, Nikki H. By the way, I believe that you put in a comment on one of my notification videos that I'd be doing this today, and said that I can set it up to be kind of sitting there whining. So I do appreciate you so much because I was able to actually do that for the first time. All right, Mike Jones, JP4. Yeah, exposure, Google it. You'll see a list of attorneys. Yeah, perfect. See, I've got 3 claims pending. Do you think they'll deny my claim if I request C5? No, they won't. They won't. They don't care. In fact, it's probably a whole different situation. A whole different group of people that you would be communicating with. So C-file, on that note, important piece of information in there is going to be your code sheet, and it's going to show you, what kind of ratings you have. Are they considered static and so forth? You can also get a lot of this information that you're looking for from an accredited veteran service officer or veteran service rep. Now, there's kind of 2 versions, right? You have kind of the dialed down version of an accredited representative, somebody who maybe they worked at a VFW or DAV or something, and they're accredited with the VA, yes, but maybe they did not go and get their, what they call a PIV card. It's like a CAC card for those who are familiar. So the Common Access card, where you can slide it in and it reads the computer chip, and you can remote desktop into the VA system for anybody who you have appointed authority with. So you can go to your accredited rep, and they can pull up information for you to tell you what conditions are static and so forth. But yeah, you should be good to go to get that C file. And moving on. Greetings from PR. Guessing that's Puerto Rico. If so, what's going on over there? All right, keep up the great job. Appreciate the updates. I try. Look, and my thing is I try to be consistent, and I try to get the information out there. I don't like to be onesie twosie. And here's the other thing, and I'm going to throw this out there for folks. There are going to be times where I throw out very similar information in a short time span. And the reason why is because, sadly, not everybody sees the first one, right? So it's kind of a blanket approach. Many lines in the water catches many fish, right? So I'm just trying to get the word out on certain things. Like, for example, the digestive system rating schedule change, right? If you file now, or at least put in an intent to file, you get to play both worlds. But before you know it, we're going to miss that time frame, and then we're going to get all the I wish I would have knowns. And I think that's the part that, if anything keeps me up at night, that's probably the one thing, the I wish I would have known. And I just don't ever want to be a cause of any of that. So, all right. When I was in Turkey, I was thrown off a horse and hurt my back. Can I claim service connection? So if you were in the military when you were in Turkey, which I'm assuming you were, and you were on the horse and you fell off and you hurt your back, if you were active duty during that time frame, you could have been off on weekend, R&R, whatever, and did that. Cool. Here's the problem that you're going to have is the documentation, right? Can you prove that you were thrown off a horse and hurt your back, or at least thrown off a horse, an event? Can you at least prove that happened? And then the way I like to think about it is if I have to push through a claim all the way to the Board of Appeals and have it seen by a judge, does my story make sense? So even if you can't prove that you hurt your back, right? I didn't get diagnosed while I was in, we'll just say, but I do have proof that I was thrown off a horse somehow, some way, right? Maybe you have something documented somewhere, I don't know. Or you wrote home in a letter that you were thrown off a horse, and you have that letter with the postmark and all that stuff, right? Anything you can do to provide evidence that that occurred, well, then it's likely that you hurt your back when you fell off the horse. And sometimes these things sneak up on you. Ask anybody who's 85 years old about their, their hurt whatever. And they're like, well, when I was 27, I did this and never bothered me until now, right? So the answer is yes, you can. You just need to document it. The hardest part's going to be the nexus aspect. I'm assuming you have some sort of a diagnosis for the back. Thanks for acknowledging me. Took me less than a year to get. That's outstanding, Scott, by the way. 100% in less than a year. It's one of those things. It doesn't happen all the time for everybody, but when it does, that's outstanding and good for you. Share the word, right? Let's see. Excellent. Congratulations. Get him 100 likes from Jim. Thanks, Jim. Claim. If you can. So yes, but I had a TBI. So TBI is its own thing. Migraine's its own thing. So if you can get a doctor, here's the thing. A lot of times people think Nexus is only for trying to get a service-connected condition. Nexus is just a word. Nexus means link, right? Link between this and that. So the problem is that a lot of us talk about a nexus, and 90% of the time it's about a nexus between your condition and your time in service. Show me that it either manifested during your time in service, or show me that it's related to your service. However, when you're talking about a secondary condition, there's still a nexus. It's just that it shifts, and it shifts to a link between your service-connected condition and your new condition that you want to get rated as a secondary. So if you have tinnitus currently, you need to have some sort of proof, right, evidence that your migraines are due to your tinnitus, okay, or maybe due to a TBI, I don't know, right? So due to something. Now, you would have to work with your doctor. Remember that the VA's threshold is not like the regular legal system. It's not without a shadow of a doubt. It is, if evidence is in equipoise, meaning it's equal on both sides, then the VA is supposed to rule in your favor. So that's why you hear the terminology, at least likely is not. Obviously, more than likely is better, but as long as you get that, at least likely is not. All right, so let's move on here. Do you know the projected date that mental health change, making it easier to obtain 100%? And I love this change. This is my favorite one, I think. Way overdue, in my opinion. No, not for sure. They say that it will be in June of this year is the projected time frame that is put in the Federal Register for this specific change. Does it mean that it's going to happen then? No, because they can push things on and what have you. It depends if they're going to do it as a standalone rating change, or if they're going to lump it in with other changes at the same time, such as the deletion of tinnitus as a standalone condition. My opinion would be, if they are going to do it as a standalone update on that one rating schedule, then if it were me, if I were the president of the United States myself, me, Jason, I'm the president of the United States and I'm up for re-election. The mental health change is a good news story and good information, and the VA is part of my cabinet and one of my departments. Damn right, VA, you need to get on it and push this rating change out now, because I want to publicize it, right? However, tinnitus, elimination of tinnitus as a standalone condition, especially when tinnitus is the #1 rated condition for veterans, I would say, VA, hold off on that change until after the election. So that's, I mean, sadly, we got to look at kind of the climate, right, and see where things are. Now let's move on here. So again, don't know when it's going to be in effect. Hopefully sooner than later. Thanks for what you do from Triple T. You're welcome. If you can claim alcoholism as a secondary, you can claim anything. Isn't that the truth? And again, it goes down to the nexus, right? Here's the thing, is that your condition must be chronic in nature or have some sort of residual effects. It needs to be an ongoing problem. All right, had to highlight notes at the CMP, took the heat off me. Good call, 12 Bravo, Georgia, outstanding. Yes, agree, 1000%. If you're going to a CMP exam, it's not a closed book test. Print out, write down everything from the schedule of ratings for your specific condition. Highlight the meaty parts, whatever you need to do, regurgitate it exactly verbatim, whatever it is, but make sure that you get that information into their hands. You don't want to shortchange yourself. All right. Star Fury, what is going on, brother? Good to see you. Glad to be a part of the platoon meeting with the local congressman in my area here in DC tomorrow to discuss veterans. Anything you would like me to talk about? You know what? Two things. I'm just off the top of my head. One, the Major Richard Starr Act, because that is loved by many. And then the second thing would be, what can we do upstream for veterans? And what I mean is, you know, we need to help ourselves before we become veterans. So in other words, we need a little more emphasis at the TAPS classes on the true impacts and the true benefits that we've earned, not just a PowerPoint. We need a true spokesperson in there at the TAPS Transition Assistance Program for veterans. All right, moving on. Thanks for this live stream. This channel has helped me so much. You're welcome, Kathy. This old goat says, you're a great source of information. Thank you. I try to be. I'm trying to put it all in one place, right? Simplify Devil Dog, thank you so much. Kiko from the South, with your videos and knowledge, you have helped share. I've gone from 20 to 9. Sweet, that's a big swing. From a 20 to a 90 is huge. And my question is, anytime I hear somebody say 90, I'm always wondering, is it 85 or is it 94? Because that's a huge difference, right? Thank you for the info. And oh, by the way, on that note, the VA has finally included, and this is, I don't know, 6 months ago, included a calculator on their website so you can calculate the VA funny math yourself. And it gives you the two different percentages, your actual pay rate percentage, as well as your true raw percentage. So, you know, for this example, you might be 93%, but you're rated at 90. Also, when did you serve? I see the boot camp grad. Okay, so you're 2002, 25 October here. So I graduated in January of 1994 from Marine Corps boot camp. Joined in November 1st is when I joined. November 1st of 1993. So I missed the first one by a little bit, but lucky for me, my whole platoon that I got assigned to came back from the first Gulf War stuff. So moving on here. Got a simplify. Thanks, brother. Appreciate it. Simplify to you, Marine Devil Dog. All right. 12 Bravo, Georgia. If you research and take notes, do your own claims. Doing your own claims is very doable. Yes, I agree. For most people, doing your own claims is very doable if you pay attention and you understand what you need to do and how important evidence is. Absolutely. The VA system makes it pretty much bulletproof on filling out the correct forms along the way. So that's important. Watching these types of videos, and really look, I've said it before, I'm kind of a fan of everybody, right? I mean, there's good information and you can pick out nuggets anywhere. So do your own due diligence. The only thing that I say is that, look, if know how to get it all together, know how to file it all, take all that stuff with you, maybe to a veteran service officer who has the access into the VA system. So you have somebody that you can chime in with every once in a while and go, hey, it's been 4 months. I haven't been contacted for my C&P exam. Can you check in the system and see what's going on? It might be helpful. Just saying. All right. I'm recently total and permanent, but during the C&P process, I was also diagnosed with sleep apnea. Should I still reopen and file for it? Is it worth it? That's a personal thing. I don't think so off the top of my head. However, if you think that there's a way that it may help you get to special monthly compensation, then yes. Right. So it's again, a very nuanced thing. It's that's what you would have to look into. If it's just going to keep you at the 100% situation, unless you're going to actually pass away due to sleep apnea, or if you've been rated at permanent and total for less than 10 years, then I would take a look at that. And just so people know, I stand in here. So I'm standing. So if you see me doing a lot of rocking back and forth, I stand because it's better for my back. If I sit too long, then there's no way I'd be able to. I would not. I'd be here 15 minutes and that's it. So anyway, all right, moving on. Let's see. Had supplemental filed 3 months ago after decision assigned intent to file, which was filed after the claim being appealed was filed. Will HLR resolve that? Had a supplemental filed 3 months after decision assigned an intent to file, which was filed after the claim being appealed was filed. So if you're talking about the date frame or time frames of things, if you're saying that I'm not quite exactly sure, and maybe it's just I'm not having time to process it because I'm in this weird environment right now trying to do all this. If you're saying that you filed a claim and then you filed a supplemental, but then you also had an intent to file in place, but then for some reason they assigned your intent to file to your supplemental and you want them to undo that and keep your intent to file over here because your supplemental was still filed within the 12-month period of the denial or the disagreement. I would call the VA first. And talk with them and see what they suggest. This is not a new situation. This type of stuff has happened before. I would call the 1000 number first and see what they say, because they might screw it up even worse with you filing a HLR behind the supplemental in this situation. All right. So Kathy sent something over to Star Fury. If you saw that, Star Fury, ask if he is aware of the new bill for retroactive pay for sexual assault veterans, please. Good one. And I think it's the Justice and Restitution Act, if I remember right. That is a good one. I'm glad you brought that up, Kathy. So the idea behind this bill is that survivors of sexual assault, MST specifically, this bill would provide a retroactive pay back to the date of discharge, just because of the nature of the of MST or really any sexual assault. Many people move on and just kind of keep it buried and never mention it for many years. So that would be a good one as well. And again, I believe you have to look into it, just off the top of my head, the Justice and Restitution or something to that effect. So next, moving on, what are the qualifications for a surviving spouse to get DIC? How long do they have to be married? So the qualifications for DIC for a surviving spouse will vary depending on the veteran's situation. Now, I thought I pulled something up here. Let me see if I have it. If I have DIC up here, I don't know. Well, what I will tell you is, and you can read it, I've done videos on it in the past, is if you've been married for 8 years plus, what happens is you get an extra bump. If you've been married as long as you were married, um, I believe that you're going to qualify as long as the veteran qualifies. That's the biggest thing. So you want to look at, did the veteran have 100% rating with the VA for 10 years? Then it doesn't matter what the cause of death was. If it's less than 10 years, that's the big one. And what you're looking at there is you must have either your service-connected condition or a service-connected condition is the cause of death, or it can be listed as a contributing cause of death. Moving on, Ton Tavern. Yes, Ton Tavern, absolutely. It's too bad that place doesn't exist, that it burnt down however many years ago, and there's just a sign where it used to be. It would be so cool to be able to actually step foot in that building if it existed. All right, if you're PT, you're all set up. Okay. Got it. 12 Bravo, just pointing out that if you're permanent and total, there's no more C&P exams, no more examinations. And on that note, yes, there are different levels of protection that will help you avoid re-examination. Permanent and total is a fantastic, the preferred option, right? So can you get rated higher than 100%? So yes. And here's the problem with the VA's verbiage of 100% rating is that on its face, it sounds like that's the maximum, right? So what happens is, in either on purpose or not, what happens is veterans new to this world think, well, 100% is reserved for the worst case situations, which I am not, because I know people in worst case situations. So I should never be near 100%. So then we self-segregate out, and that's kind of the shortest version that I can give there. But there is a whole other rating schedule that is specifically for the worst case situations, and that is special monthly compensation, SMC. So that is the answer to that is that no, you can't. Or yes, you can be rated higher than 100%, and that would be special monthly compensation. There's two ways that happens. It's either as an add-on to the 100%, so you get your 100% plus a tiny add-on, or you move completely over to special monthly compensation and you're strictly rated on that schedule. And it can pay out, 3 times as much as the 100% rating. All right. So Star Fury acknowledged. Awesome. Kathy acknowledged. You guys are on it. I wish I was as fast as you. Hello from Atlanta, from Robert. Thank you, brother. Nice to have you on. I've seen you a few times now. All right. Breathing is one, I'm sure. Yeah, there you go. Breathing. Damn breathing. Who started this, veterans? Are getting a 2,000 stimulus check in April. I don't know. Have no clue. Any PFAS Act updates? I haven't seen anything lately. I will push on that as well and see what we can get. All right, my VSO put in, this is Marco, put in for PTSD, anxiety, depression, but I was diagnosed with anxiety and SSD. Should I cancel the claim and submit a new one? No. As long as you're in the realm of what you're filing for, it's fine. They'll get it. It's kind of like you could say, you could file a claim, lower back problem, and that's what your claim says, but all your documentation says lower or says lumbar strain or degenerative disc disease, lower lumbar or whatever. You'll be fine. No issue there. Grass Valley, California. Outstanding. My dad lives in Auburn. So nice to have you on board. Great area out there in the hills and away from too much. All right. If you could talk about MEB, so that's the Medical Evaluation Board. After you get 100% permanent and total, will they downgrade me? So my My gut is no. I don't think so. I wouldn't imagine. I will have to look into it and see what else I can find out. I'm thinking no. That's a great question. All right, moving on. Good afternoon. Thanks for the live stream. Is there a website that you can have your spouse apply as a caregiver if you're service connected for sleep apnea? My kind of go-to has always been, and I already know 12 Bravo, Georgia, right? VSO's always set off my BS detector. Look, I get it. It's a people business, right? So you're going to run into folks that are great that do things and folks that aren't great that do things. So here's my situation on this question regarding the caregiver. You can file for caregiver on the VA. You can get all the information on the VA site. I suggest, again, and I'm biased because I ran my own shop and I had all my people doing what I needed them to do. So I had a good shop. There's not always good shops. I get it. Shop then. If you meet it with a VSO and you don't like them, veteran service officer or a veteran service rep, then you don't have to work with them. That's the beauty of it. But my go-to, and again, I'm biased because I did it and we had a great shop. And in fact, I even implemented for the first time that office has ever had monthly surveys that were sent out to everybody that came into our office that we had their email address on, which was everybody, right? We would send out monthly surveys to gauge how we're doing. So, not every place cares, obviously, but I did. So hopefully there's others that do. All right, moving on. If you could talk about, let's see, at 92, submitting FDC service connected for shoulder and other shoulder for secondary. Have a great Nexus letter. Good. And here's the thing. You know what? I went to, and that was from K9 USA. I went to a CMP exam and for my lower back, and the CMP examiner told me, he said, hey, look, don't forget that you're going to have the ability to do secondary conditions later on in life. Later on, you're going to be pushing yourself out of chairs, right? Pushing yourself up to get off of things. That's going to wear and tear on your shoulders and your elbows, and those are going to become secondary conditions later. I just want you to understand that. So it doesn't matter if it happens when you're 62, 82, or 92. Remember that you'll have these secondary conditions, and it's not, they can't say, oh, it was going to happen to you anyway because you're old, right? They can't treat us that way. And that's one of the other things, right, is that we think, well, I'm getting older, so I would have felt this way anyway, or I'm better off than some people. Doesn't matter, right? If you have an issue and you follow it up with anything like, well, it's, my shoulder's a little messed up because I'm getting older anyway. I heard it there, but it's really, no, you should be looking to file a claim. All right. You're doing fantastic. Keep up okay, great. Thank you. I appreciate it. Explain supplemental claim. All right. So Victor wants an explanation on supplemental claim. All right. So supplemental claim is funny claim because it's actually two different things. There's two answers to a supplemental claim. The most common answer is you disagree with the decision from the VA. Now I say disagree with the decision because your disagreement might not be denial. So some people will say, if you were denied for a claim, then you can file this. Denied is one piece. Think of it in the context of disagree. Okay. So you disagree, you can disagree with the rating, right? So, and obviously a denial, right? So you disagree with because they denied you, you disagree because they rated you at 10% instead of 30% for GERD. So at that point, you can decide to file what's called a supplemental claim. A supplemental claim allows you to provide additional information to support you right? In whatever aspect you disagree with. So if it's a rating criteria and you think you should be at a 30%, you run to your doctor, you have your doctor write up a letter saying that you meet all the criteria for a 30%, get that on their letterhead. Bam, that's additional evidence showing that you meet the criteria for 30% rating. Move my rating. I shouldn't be a 10. I should be a 30. Look, my doctor even attests to this. So you're able to supply that additional evidence, which is great for whatever aspect that they're missing, whether it's, again, rating criteria or maybe it's Nexus, whatever. The other answer is you filed for a claim and whatever the result was, you could be approved at whatever, right? Let's use this example. They approve you for GERD at 10%. Well, 5 years goes by, and now all of a sudden your GERD symptoms are worse. Now you warrant a 30% rating instead of a 10. You would file a supplemental claim on your prior claim. You're going to reopen it under a supplemental claim with additional evidence that will support your ask for a higher rating. So you can also utilize the supplemental claim in that way. All right, moving on. Hey, look at that. Here we are on Friday, and Jesus Christ has put in a comment. Thank you. So 90% not rounded up with C&P for, okay, so that means 90% exactly at. That's the raw number. You're at 90%. So here you are at 90, a true 90. Rounded up with C&P for RLS increase, currently at 0%. So asking for an increase on that 0% because it was deferred, okay, and never rated, okay. This could be my moment to hit 100%. Yes, it could. And fingers crossed and prayers out to you, brother. Hope that happens for you. That would be fantastic. And let us know how that works out. So moving on from Jim. So if C&P examiner rated me favorable for back, neck, and bilateral radiculopathy with only 5 to 10% range of motion on entire spine, is that good for a rater to approve? She found service connection too. Cool. So as long as you have service connection and you have some sort of range of motion issue, here's the thing with radiculopathy is that they're going to give it to you down each extremity. So in this case, it's the back of the neck. So I'm assuming your radiculopathy is in your arms. So it's bilateral, and that includes the bilateral effect, which is an extra 10% of the combined rating of those two conditions. So yeah, you should be good to go, and hope that works out well. That's looks like the C&P's already. It sounds like your rating is around the corner, so hopefully that works out well. Moving on, if you could talk about. Okay, I did that. Got my decision letter, but nowhere does it mention if I will ever need another reevaluation. That's a good sign. Or if my case is static, and they don't normally say static. If I've been service connected since 2005, I recently got. Okay, so here's the deal. If you're not 100% permanent and total, sometimes it's hard to tell what's going on. If you're 100% permanent and total, you can see a couple tips or hints in your decision letter, and it's going to say that you have access to Chapter 35 or that you have CHAMP VA as well, and that will tell you that you're permanent and total at the 100% rating. Now, what about folks that are 90%, 80%, 60%, 30%? Do you have that ability to see if you're static? Well, the first hint is that there is no future exams scheduled on any of your conditions. The VA is mandated to inform you of a future exam. And typically that future exam will be 3 to 5 years out. Now, a lot of conditions, if you provide the right evidence, can warrant a static label, meaning that the VA will not do a future exam for you. Now, if you're not sure and you want to double check, you can call the VA. You can order your C-file. You can contact an accredited vet rep who has access to the VA system. If you have not worked with them before, they will need you to sign a form allowing them to look at your file. They send that to the VA, and then within a couple of days, they'll be able to peek into the system and tell you what conditions are rated as static. So moving on here, let's see, where am I? Percentage updated, mental health got added. Why would they not put my condition is static on the letter? Okay, so kind of same. So it's still Kiko from the South. So got my percentage updated and mental health got added. Why would they not put my condition static on the letter? So in some cases, mental health, if it's the first time and you don't have a long diagnosed kind of treatment period that you provided, oftentimes you're going to see a future exam for mental health. But don't know. And it says here that the percentage was updated and mental health got added. Why would they not put it, my condition is static on the letter? So they don't really write static anywhere. It's only going to be on like the code sheet and all that stuff within the C file. Again, call the VA directly. They may be able to give it to you. Let's see. It should be an easy hill to climb because the money will be small. Okay, Star Fury. Thank you, sir. Randall, I want to call my congressman and ask him why he's a moron. You can. They got phone numbers. And if you want to leave it on voicemail, you can do that. All right. And the next one is from Joseph here. I have 2 Nexus letters from 2 psychiatrists that say my TBI is highly likely connected, but also 70% for MDD. The Nexus separate the symptoms of the disorders. Do you suggest any more evidence? So the letters are solid, and I'll tell you that they have their notes as well, and you can ask them for your full medical files from them and read through them and then just supply it all as evidence if you'd like. You're probably going to be good to go with that from them. They're going to have a CMP exam as well, but the fact that it's highly likely is a good move as far as the service connection piece is concerned. So nice. Says, who cares about you? Talk about us. Nice. All right, moving on. Back pay question, EAS September 2022, intent to file November 2022. Another intent to file July 2023, actually filed February 2024. Would my back pay go to? Yeah. Okay, so the way that it works is when you get out of the military, and this is all those I wish I would have known, right? The problem is when you get out of the military, day one, nobody tells you that you essentially have an intent to file in place. If you file a claim within the first 12 months of discharge, the VA will pay you back to your day after discharge. So that's that first piece. So you don't even need to put an intent to file in after you get out. Now, once you pass up that time frame, well, now that opportunity is gone. So unless you filed a claim within the first 12 months of discharge, you are not going to be back paid to your day after discharge. So now in this situation, you put in an intent to file in November of 2022. So now you have until November of 2023. So if you file a claim before November of 2023, then you would be back paid to November of 2022. But it looks like you missed that window, but you filed another intent to file July of 2023, and then you actually filed a claim 7 months later or so, 6-7 months later in February of 2024. So therefore, your back pay date should be July of 2023, provided that you were diagnosed and all that stuff after that, and the rate, if there was any schedule changes and what have you. So most likely you'll be back paid or to July of 2023, all the way back to that for anything that you filed in February. All right, got a list of active, got off active in 86. Didn't even know I could use VA until, I know, right? I wish I would have known, right? 12 Bravo. All right, moving on. Combat Craig is awesome. He is definitely one of the first, right? Pushing on information, and good information is always good to have. Same here, 12 Bravo out in 94, got out of the VA, got in VA in 2015. Let's move on. Thank you for what you do. Listen to your channel every day that you post. Thank you, Fitzroy. I appreciate you. Patty, you're awesome. Thanks for the support, the info you provide. Can't thank you enough. You're very welcome. Question here from Deborah. My question is why vet's wife can't receive all of the vet's benefits. They gave me half of his check, which with DIC. So it depends on the circumstances, right? And everybody's situation's different. A surviving spouse receiving dependency indemnity compensation that was married for 8 years and so forth could actually get more than the VA was paying their spouse. Let's say that the veteran was only rated, for example, for hypertension, the only rating they have, only hypertension, and it was somewhat of a low rating. However, they died of a heart attack. That surviving spouse can now receive DIC, and that DIC would pay out higher than how much that hypertension payment was worth. So my thought process here would be that the VA is looking to compensate the surviving spouse in some way, but not fully, since the veteran's not there anymore, that there's not two people involved with the situation. I don't know. I mean, it is what it is. There could be another way to figure it out, and a different way to calculate it for sure. I think that the lower amount should be raised. I think the floor of DIC should be maybe a little bit higher, especially for somebody who's been married for over 10 years. There's a big change. So let's move on here. Hit the like button. Yes, thank you. Moving on, VA Claims Academy is awesome, and Vets Info Tap. Thank you, Mark. I appreciate it. Let's move on here. Thank you so much for all you do. I appreciate you. Thank you. People can also call VERA, Veterans Engagement Reporting Application, to get information about their claim. Interesting. I'll have to look that up as well. William Newcomb, just call the VA and you can ask for a benefits letter with diagnostic codes. If they don't have a date below, it's more likely static. Agreed. Thank you, William. Let's see. What is the rating for index finger ligament injury that is flexion range of motion? I am not sure off the top of my head. I do have a buddy of mine that actually has a finger that he's rated for, and I cannot remember what it was. I can't see it being too high, just because all of the range of motion rating schedules pretty much suck. So there's that. All right, Mark Shippey again. After I get back my decision letter for neck, back, and knees, I want to put in a mental health for chronic pain syndrome. Go for it. C&P paper exam, I believe, are not good for veterans. Okay, yeah, I agree. Sadly, there's not a better way at this point. The problem is that the VA has to have some sort of process in place that can be duplicated and and done everywhere, right? So let's move on. Great info, got on in 91, didn't even know about all this stuff. Keep up the good work. I agree. I don't even know why I filed a VA claim when I was getting out. I think somebody just said this is part of your exit process. You need to fill this form out, send it in. So, it is what it is. All right. If my VA psychiatrist writes total social and occupational impairment in my VA medical records at every visit 3 to 4 times a year from 98 through 2003, we'll see who you go for. I would think so. The problem is are you holding down employment will be the next question, right? So sure, total social and occupational impairment. So are you currently working? Do you have a job? Are you able to hold a job? Those would be the next questions that would need to be asked, and you would need to wonder, how that will impact that. I'll tell you that you are the star witness in your VA claims journey. So careful how you frame things. Thank you so much, Marvin. I appreciate it. There in Milwaukee, Dave Matthews from the Dave Matthews Band. Thank you. I appreciate it, sir. All right. Is Stan okay? I heard sirens. Yeah, right. Not only that, I think that there's a hen who's getting ready to lay an egg next to us. Well, I don't know if you can hear that or not. There's a hen that doesn't sound very excited. So we'll see if we get an egg to magically appear here. All right. So Robert here, just medically retired in July of 2023, 15 years, Louisiana Army National Guard. Need to see about getting CRSC. Love Veterans Info Tap. Yes, you do. Outstanding. And by the way, Robert, if you had, and look, I get it. Reserve, National Guard time, it's a whole different world. If you were by chance, let's say if you were active, like AGR, Active Guard Reserve, something like that, during this last stint that you put in, if you were, then you need to make sure that you capitalize on the 1 year after active duty discharge presumptive conditions. In other words, anything that you get, not anything, but a good bulk of things that you could get diagnosed for could be looked at as presumptive conditions to your time in service, if that is the case. All right, moving on. Willie Style Family Gaming. All right. I was just increased from 50 to 70% for PTSD effective in August. If the mental health change happens within the year, would I be able to keep my August effective date? No, because they can't go back before the actual date of the change. However, if you put in an intent to file today, right? Today, intent to file today, and the new mental health rating schedule comes out 8 months from now, then you can file for your claim for an increase, and they'll preserve the effective date of the date the effective rate change went into effect, not your intent to file date. But let's say that you missed the fact that they put it into effect, right? So an example would be you have your intent to file in, and then 8 months from now, the VA updates the rating schedule for mental health. You didn't know about it. You find out 10 months after your intent to file date. So you missed 2 months. Now you find out about it. So now you go ahead and you file for that increase. At least you get that 2 extra months of back pay because they'll only go back to the date that it went into effect. So that's an important piece there. And good for you for keeping an eye on it. Everybody who has a mental health rating, I believe, should absolutely keep an eye on this proposed rating change that should be going into effect at some point here. Moving on, Joseph says, if I do PT at the VA so physical therapy, at the VA for my back, will I lose my disability pay? Everybody's always worried about it. I don't think so. I mean, if you show dramatic improvements, sure, they have that possibility and they have the documentation on it there that if your condition dramatically improves. But remember that the VA's rating schedule for back conditions is typically pretty crappy. So you probably have a low, not a lower back, but a low rating for your back. Most people do. What happens is that you're able to then utilize that back condition to leverage your secondaries like arthritis buildup. And usually what you're looking at is the physical therapy is not really going to make you better. It's going to help you not get worse is kind of what happens. So moving on, how long does it take a DAV rep to get back to you? It's people business, geographic, workloads. The thing with some of these veteran service organization reps is that, look, they're good-hearted and they want to help out. Not all of them are full-time. Some of them are not paid, and most of them are not paid. They're just kind of doing it to help. And so it just kind of depends. Where with a government employee, such as a county veteran service officer or a state veteran service officer or veteran service rep that works for the state or the county, they're working 40 hours a week, and they have a staff and so forth. So you might want to try that route if you're not getting a call back, especially within a week. I would say it just alludes to their workload or their bandwidth, really. All right, moving on here. Just got 10% for tinnitus. All the other claims got denied without any CMPs put in for headaches and denied. I claim stated I had a disability, but I got denied as well, along with others, but continuing on. That's the big thing, right? Look, it's going to happen. You need to read your decision letter, see why they denied you. Were you missing pieces on the Nexus? Were you relying on the VA to help provide some sort of diagnosis or to help you with some sort of medical evidence? Because the VA is not going to do that. You need to make sure that you're providing all the evidence of the condition, including diagnosis, as well as having the information in there with regard to your Nexus. So that's important. And you just want to make sure that you read through it and make sure that you're not missing anything. Moving on here, Robert, 100% VA disability. Awesome. Good for you. I can hear Stan. I don't know if you guys can hear Stan. I'll try to be quiet if I hear it again. All right. And let's see. I had no reportable income for 10 years when I got TDID. Perfect. I think you have to give a 5-year kind of snapshot going back. There's Stan. A 5-year kind of look back on your previous employment, and the VA may call your most recent employer. So also something to kind of think about. When would you suggest adding to rating with stuff from the PACT Act, and here if you're already at 100%? It just depends, right? And I mentioned it earlier. One of the things that you want to think about, is it going to add anything for you? Are you going to get maybe some special monthly compensation? Are you going to get a clothing allowance? Is it going to make it easier for a spouse to obtain DIC? So I'm going to keep reading through these. I'm already at 1 hour and 43 minutes. So I will continue to try to fumble through this for probably another 15 minutes. And then we'll call it a day on my first real attempt at this. And the next time I do it, I'm sure I will be better. So we'll keep going for about another 15 minutes. All right. Thanks for everyone's service coming from Doug. Likewise, moving on, Leon, could you please do a show regarding who would qualify for a Q claim? Good suggestion. So Q is clear and unmistakable error. Stan agrees. So a clear and unmistakable error, a Q, they are basically your last resort, but it is a process in which you can potentially get some decent back pay in the event that the VA screwed up in that fashion. So moving on here, bear with me. Just trying to, it's kind of hard to scroll through all this stuff and get to some questions sometimes, and I apologize for moving slow. Still have a claim for a dependent. Stan is on it now. See, he knows I'm here. Since January 8th, 2024, is still on the second phase for the claim. I need about 3 more phases to get some back pay. Okay, I see. So you're probably looking on the VA's website to show where your process is in the claim process. So January, I don't know, maybe you're looking at a June, July time frame. So yep, stay patient. It'll happen. All right. And I'll tell you, it's the longest time period. It's the longest wait. So did the standard form SF 180, standard form 180, Christopher Pittman. For those that don't know, the SF, standard form 180, I think about it like it's a circle, right? 360, 180 is looking back. It's to order all your records, right? So it was sent only to MEPS. It sent only MEPS intake forms. Interesting. I received a medical discharge, so there are a number of records all now missing. What do I do? Wow. So that sucks. In some cases, the SF-180 form needs to basically be duplicated and mailed to multiple locations depending on your situation. So one, double check that, read the where it goes stuff, but read all of them to see if you have more than one place that you need to send it. Secondly, you can reach out to your congressional reps field office. They will have somebody there who is assigned Veterans Affairs to correspond with. Let them know your situation, and then they will reach out for you, even though it's not the VA, but whatever. They handle veteran stuff. And they will reach out to National Archives or wherever this stuff is and see what they can do to help you liaise on that. Moving on. Can a company continue processing secondary or higher level claims when you told them I no longer want to continue? Do you have an email? I'm on TDIU PNT. So my email is veteransinfotap@gmail.com. And that's on the YouTube channel as well. If you, I don't know, the homepage thing, whatever you click on, it should be there. So if you're talking about one of those paid companies that you signed up with, there's some sort of an agreement in there. Many of them have kind of a binding agreement that no matter what happens, if it gets increased, that they can come after you for some set dollar amount or percentage. So I would read through, if this is the case, I would read through any of that information and that you have, if you sign some sort of an agreement with them, and see what it says. If it's very specific on that. If you're not quite sure or you want additional help, reach out to maybe your state's attorney general's office or maybe even your local maybe DA's office or something like that to see if there's anything that they can do to help you read through it. And the reason why I mentioned that is there's some litigation happening for one of those claims consulting companies in Texas, and the attorney general for the state is involved. So I'm just saying that maybe they would be able to read through it. All right, so moving on. And yes, a show on CRSC, sure. Let's see, what can I do, or what can you do if you have a Nexus letter for sleep apnea after a stroke and the claim was denied? File an appeal with additional evidence on whatever the reason for denial was. So you need to read why it was denied. Read the award or the decision letter and see why, and then double down on information combating that. Take it to your doctor, read it to your doctor, show it to your doctor, and tell your doctor that you're trying to combat that reason for denial. Thanks for your service to the veteran community. I'm at 90%, filed for an increase of 10% degenerative disc disease, cervical spine with 20% radiculopathy. Claim also for URE radiculopathy. VA would only do an x-ray. So I guess, I mean, it sounds like you already filed the increase. So if you've already filed for it and you're waiting for it to happen and see what happens, then it's the waiting game, right? If you feel as though you need to provide or you want to have more evidence in your file regarding those things, then you may need to really push on your VA medical team to allow you to get whatever other evidence you think you need, or you need to go to a civilian provider. AAV, yeah, I got a foot long scar. Ugh, that's horrible. 12 Bravo. Long scar from the AAV. They went up my spine and went after bone spurs. Oh, good time. All right. Let's see. It was 2013, no problem. 90% permanent total service connected with IU, brother. Outstanding. Puerto Rican married to Filipina. Yep. Good job, brother. All right. Clean music lover. How can I get medical records from a command I was TAD at? I had a medical emergency where I was in ICU for 2 days. Huh. Well, I guess it depends on how long ago it was. And if it was a reserve unit or a National Guard unit or an active duty unit. Don't know if anybody can hear that, but the chicken is laying an egg. Let's see. It's a party. It's a flock party. All right. So I was trying to be quiet so you could hear if you were so inclined. So anyway, moving on. How can I get medical records from the command? Okay, so you could try to reach out to the command, see what they say, depending on what kind of command it was. Again, if it was in the reserves, the National Guard, you might need to contact the state for that National Guard. If it's active duty, how long ago it was. If it was a long time ago, you might have to just order your service treatment records, and hopefully it would be in there somewhere. And you would do that with your SF-180. So, and then last resort would be contact your congressional elected's office and talk to their person that handles their veteran stuff, military stuff, and try to get them to help you out. All right, so got about 8 more minutes or so, trying to do the best I can. Again, next time will be smoother. All right, can I file a hypertension claim if my numbers are 145, 150, and 85, 95? My VA primary care doctor considered putting me on medication for it. So I don't remember the numbers off the top of my head. Let me see. VA hyper. If you just Google search hypertension for VA rating, 2 things will happen. One, the rating schedule from the VA will actually should come up somewhere in there. And then also you should also get a bunch of attorneys telling you as well what the numbers are. So here it's what are you at again? 145, 150, 85. So if you're systolic, so a lot of it is diastolic, and then so the different ones are, it states here that if you're over 130 diastolic, you're at 60%. If you're between 120 and 129 diastolic, then you're at 40%. If you are 110 to 119 diastolic and your systolic is 200 or higher, then you're at 20%. And then if you're 100 to 109 systolic, if your diastolic is 100 to 109 and your systolic is 160 to 199, then you're at 10%. So those are the numbers. Here's the thing with the rating schedules, and everybody should understand and know and find and read the rating schedule for your own conditions. Here's the thing with it. The rating schedule through the VA, it can be a bit cumbersome to kind of get through the different books and find the rating schedule and find your condition. If you Google search just your condition VA rating schedule, a bunch of attorneys have copied and pasted all that information onto their websites. I would Number one would be get it from the horse's mouth directly from the VA. Number two, if you can't figure it out that way, do it from an attorney's website that actually does, veteran related law, right? Like they want you as a client because they are trying to get the up-to-date information. Don't get it off of some other means because it might be old information and you want to deal with what's new. All right, so moving on. Let's see. I'm just kind of reading some stuff here. Just saw on the VA disability status for special monthly compensation K that there was a part that says we added notice for request for VA form 212680. I was wondering what that means. So the first thing that you should always do is look up the form so they see what that is. 21-2680 VA. And that is the application for aid in attendance. So that is the application that would be used for aid in attendance, which can fall under the special monthly compensation window, and it is an add-on to your special monthly compensation. Hey, brother, can you and the CivDiv do something on CRDP? Yeah, absolutely, and I will tell Clay that we need to be doing that. So yes, we'll do those two subjects, and maybe we might throw one or two other kind of things in there so we can get a decent amount of footage there for you. Let's see. The best thing that happened to me was that when I was EAS'd, they never collected my service medical records, which I hand carried while stationed at MEPS, made getting my proof much easier than most. Yeah, no kidding. Let's see, moving on. VA flubbed surgery. Now I don't want to give me an 1151 claim. So here's one thing on screw ups from the VA. If the VA causes you another issue by way of medical treatment, that can become service connected. Moving on, Leon here, and we got about 5 more minutes, and then I'm going to pull the plug. My service-connected migraine medication is aggravating my kidney disease, not service-connected, and making them worse. How do I file for CKD secondary to migraine medication? So you need to, you'll file a new claim. You'll file it as a secondary condition, but the documentation that you need is going to have to be, you're going to need the nexus, right? The link between your migraine condition, the medication specifically aggravating the kidney disease, and you want to outline that in your nexus letter from your doctor. So your doctor is going to need to write that nexus letter for you with the rationale and explaining it so they have a full picture. Obviously, you're going to have your diagnosis and the signs, symptoms, and all that good stuff for the kidney disease, but you're going to want that link from your service provider. Next one, you guys can go to West Point if you live around New York City and get all your medical records. And if you see more stuff on there, and we'll see more stuff on there. So apparently there's an avenue there. Awesome. Thank you. Seems like the Guard has a lot of confusion about the subject. I medically retired last May and got myself to permanent and total, but don't know a lot about those subjects. Yep. No, totally. You know, the Guard, and I'm assuming the reserves in general, I mean, it's just, they have zero process in place for folks with regard to getting out, you know, and what to do and how to deal with any of it. And I mean, even the standard active duty doesn't do a good job with it. So, all right. Vernon here, I'd like to know your view on Q claims for the clear and unmistakable errors. I have a real good cause pending decision far as being rated 0% on 2 non-compensable service connections. By law, it's 10%. Yeah, I mean, look, based on what you just said right there, if it should be a 10%, then it could definitely fall under the unmistakable error. My suggestion with those, just because it is very much a legal process, you can reach out to one of the attorneys, right? There's bunches of them, and have the conversation and run it past them. They will give you their 2 cents on if they think it will be winnable or not. So I've done that with my own situation and with other people's as well. Ran it past a couple of attorneys that I know. So Mark saying, wishing you and yours a happy and blessed Good Friday. Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. Hey, thank you, 12 Bravo 7. Thanks, Sarge, and chat good live. Thanks. I appreciate you being on here. You have been around a very long time, my friend. All right, 100 PNT VA wants to put me on blood pressure meds, rated for mental health, sleep apnea, back, knees, secondaries. If I file secondary, or will I open me up for possible reduction on other claims? Look, my kind of take on it is, look, you know you better than anybody. If you feel good with all your claims, permanent and total is about the safest thing you can ever do. I filed 7 claims myself and appealed 3 of them at different levels. So if you feel like you're good and you feel as though something could come out of it, go for it. Do you have any videos on the IDES, the Integrated Disability Evaluation System? All right. Marine Corps does retirements through TERA while going through the IDS, the Physical Evaluation Board, but the process is a mess, mostly in the dark. So I have actually did a video on IDES and LDES. You get to decide. LDES is the legacy disability evaluation system. IDES is the integrated. Integrated means that they're going to help you file a claim with the VA along your medical discharge process from the military. This is a good thing. However, they most of the time, they don't file for everything that you could possibly file for. They're going to get the things that you're getting discharged for on there, and they might add a couple other things. Try to get what you can added on. Remember that once you actually are discharged, you have 1 year for additional presumptives. Don't let the IDES process inhibit your thinking. Still go and get diagnosed for everything that you have that you could possibly think of while you're in service, because you're currently still in. Anything that you're diagnosed for that is chronic in nature or has residuals, it will be service connected. So make sure that you take care of that. So great one. And thank you guys all here at the end, last comments, just with all the thankses and God blesses and all that good stuff. I truly appreciate you. Dubai, the Puerto Rican married to Filipina, is in Dubai. Sweet. That's cool. Always wanted to go there, check it out. All right. Hey, thank you, Willis. Thanks, Gary. Thanks, Vernon. All-American veteran. Thank you. Appreciate it. Appreciate Everton Reed. I appreciate you. Gary, again, the IDES stuff. Thank you again to 12 Bravo, Georgia. Appreciate you. All right, everyone. Thanks so much. Have a great one. And remember, if we don't take care of each other, you know the rest. I'm assuming. I mean, I would hope so. All right. Have a good one.